It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I am your host this morning. Appreciate you joining with us. Thank you very much for your attendance. Boy, oh boy, have things gotten ugly with Obamacare, huh? The news out this morning is that James O'Keefe, the guy who busted ACORN, he has latched onto the disaster of the Navigator program. You, incidentally, if you don't know it, are funding that. You're funding that with your tax dollars. You're funding it with your lifeblood. And we are paying as a nation to put these navigators out there. And O'Keefe has revealed an enormous level of corruption already. And it's only just begun. Word out this morning, by the way, is that they're going to add, in addition to that, the HHS is going to demand that health care, mental health care, I should say, be added with an unlimited capacity and capability, which, if we look at the existing levels of how healthcare is the number one method of fraudulently obtaining reimbursements through Medicaid and Medicare, you'll understand how dangerous a proposal that is. In other words, basically, you'll be able to go in and get mental health services, and the level of fraud that is associated with mental health is multiples of the level of fraud that's associated with physical health, like doctors defrauding you for, defrauding the government, I should say, for medical devices and injuries that haven't really occurred and things like that. We're going to talk about that in our first segment. Our second segment is the news that this morning 91.5 million Americans are officially out of the labor force. Folks, that is a staggering and stunning number. And I posit to you that it is the real signature achievement of the Obamacare administration, or the Obama administration. This is a brand new record that's been laid. 91.5, it's almost 92 million Americans who are not participating in the labor force in October alone. That is stunning. 932,000 people dropped out of the labor force last month. That is just unbelievable. We're going to talk a little bit about that and understand what those numbers mean, because we're going to compare those numbers to the folks that are actually working. And when we get to that segment, you should be available to get to the usdebtclock.org if at all possible. All right, our third topic is going to be the news that is out on the New American this morning, and it's across the board, but they've got a pretty good story version of it out there. There were two students that were at Gonzaga College in Spokane, Washington. They got a knock on their door. The kid opens up the door thinking it was his friend. The guy standing outside is wearing a freshly minted ankle bracelet. He's just been released from prison. He is a 6-time convicted felon, and he demands cash. The kid wisely pulls a gun. Well, guess what? The university is going to sanction these kids because they were living in a college-owned apartment building. So basically, the next time a guy convicted of 6 prior felonies knocks on your door and shows you his spanking new GPS tracking bracelet that the parole department just minted for him, and he demands cash, don't pull your gun. Call 911 and do everything that the bad man tells you to do for 20 or so minutes until the coroner arrives to clean up the mess. I mean, we wouldn't want you to violently solve a violent crime. I mean, how idiotic can we get? You know, and I'm gonna expound on this a little bit at the right time in this topic. I got to talk to you about something called self-treason. You know, you've heard me use the word treason many times with relation to our legislators and our alleged representatives, including the administration, Department of Justice. So it's on all levels. It's legislative, judicial, and executive. And it's states, by the way, too. But self-treason is a whole different animal, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because I want you to be aware of the fact that that level of treason is the worst form because it's a betrayal of your own values and your virtues. You haven't betrayed someone else. You've actually betrayed yourself. We're going to talk about how so many of us commit this style of treason every day and what we should be doing about it. Our fourth topic is going to be the dangers of the brand new, newly minted, again, DHS police state. For those of you who aren't aware of it, Las Vegas and downtown Seattle have installed light poles. Listen to this one. Light poles that in downtown Seattle, they've got antennas on there that track the MAC address of your cell phone. Have I said to you before that this device on your hip is a tracking device? It is. It can record the last 1,000 places and locations that you have been using the MAC address, even if Wi-Fi is not turned on. And in addition to that, in Vegas, they are actually installing not only this kind of system, but also microphones that can record conversations on the street level. And in addition to that, there are other cities who are doing the same exact thing. Nobody is discussing the unbelievable privacy implications of this. And so we're going to talk about it because nobody else seems to want to. The mainstream Ministry of Propaganda is completely ignoring it, pretending it's not happening. Meanwhile, you have zero vestige of privacy left. And these companies who are supporting this are acting in a manner which is completely unacceptable. And you should know who they are because you should be separating yourself from doing any business with them whatsoever. The Department of Homeland Security is tapping in to the state and city-owned systems and utilizing them to add to your what? Your dossier, your profile, that NSA storage facility, that file that belongs to you that's got your name on it in the NSA storage banks. This is the one that has a record of all your phone calls, all your telephone communications, all of your texts, all of your emails, all of your internet searches that they're stealing and or buying and or borrowing from Google, AOL, Yahoo, Verizon, AT&T, and everybody else. In addition to that, they now have all of your IRS information, and they will shortly have all of your health records because as soon as you sign up for the disaster called Obamacare, they're going to have access to all of that too. Now, they'll also be able to track you on your cell phone and the locations where you've been if you live in an urban environment. In many cities, including in Baltimore and I think Washington, D.C., they're actually installing gunshot software. It's called Ricochet, if I'm not mistaken. And basically what it does is it tracks the sound of a gunshot, and through a triangulation of these microphones, they can pinpoint down within a few yards of where they heard the gunshot. They won't show up when you dial 911, but if they hear a gunshot, they come in force, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. What about the guy who's protecting himself? All right, we're going to get into our first topic, which is the fraud that's going on with these navigators. James O'Keefe, he's the guy who broke the ACORN story, and he came out of nowhere. He was a young college guy and decided that he was going to find out what was really going on with this ACORN stuff. He's just released a 10-minute video that is really going to tick you off. When you hear what these undercover investigators get from these Obamacare navigators, who have, by the way, been paid for with a $67 million worth of grants nationwide. And, people say, oh, $67 million, what the heck? That's the rounding error on the Senate's lunch bill. I get it. But, it's $67 million here and $150 million there and $240 million here and $300 million over there. And the next thing you know, we're talking about some real money. Not to mention which 40% of that's borrowed from the Federal Reserve because the Chinese aren't buying our debt anymore. No, the Chinese have stabilized. They're not buying more than $1.3 trillion in U.S. debt anymore. That is the number that they've capped it at. They renew that and roll that debt over, but they will not buy any more because they smell the end of the day coming. So now the Federal Reserve is basically buying back all of our debt, which makes us even more and more and more daily beholden to them. And who is the Federal Reserve? Well, do your own homework on that. I've already covered that enough. So the problem with this Obamacare Navigator program is that these same organizations are whom? They're ACORN wrapped up under a brand new name. These are community organizing groups that were essentially the ACORN and other liberally funded groups that are now acting as the navigators. They're doing the same exact stuff they did then, now. The only difference is their subject and topic has changed. They've gone from, abortion or whatever their other game was back in the ACORN days to teaching people how to lie to the healthcare.gov system. There are a couple of specific instances in here where these people go in and they got a hidden camera and they say, I've got money I made off the books. And the people are literally telling them, I don't want to play the whole thing for you because it's 10 minutes, but you should watch it. It's on our website. It's on our, which is americasvoicenow.org. It's on our Facebook page at facebook.com/americasvoicenow. And you can find it on YouTube, of course. The name of their group is Project Veritas. I got to give these guys credit. This James O'Keefe has really changed the tone and the tenor of what's going on here. And, I love the idea of citizen activists who are willing to step up and expose fraud, abuse, corruption, and treason. And let's make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. This is people who are willing to betray their nation for the short-term gain of either their financial pocketbook or that combined with their ideological slant and bias. This system, the new Obamacare fraud system, will enable so much fraud. We're talking about the potential here, folks, for literally hundreds of billions of dollars. This is just the first video he's released, and he's promised that he's got lots of others to cut loose. But when you hear what they've gotten these people to basically, and they didn't have to push. All they had to do was say. This one guy said, "Well, I'm a smoker," and they said, "Well, you don't tell them that. You lie, because if you don't lie, your premiums will be higher. Don't tell them that. Don't tell them." That's what the worker says. Now, that is not the place of someone who's supposed to be allegedly representing the government position on this. You've got people who are actively telling you, do not tell the truth in your application. Ladies and gentlemen, that is fraud. And with it on tape, these people should be charged criminally with that. One of the other guys goes in and poses as a low-income worker who goes to university, who says he's got unreported cash income on the side. He works as cutting hair and cleaning people's houses. And the navigator turns around and says to him, "Don't worry about it. That's not a problem. Don't get yourself in trouble by declaring it now." In other words, don't go back and update your tax returns, and don't go back and say, in fact, one of the navigators says, "Don't get yourself in trouble by declaring it now." "Yeah, it didn't happen," says another navigator. One more chimes in and says, "Yep, never report it." The National Urban League, this is the group that is doing it in Texas, they were paid $376,000 of federal tax money to put this disaster in place. I tell you what, he then goes on to another one called Enroll America. This is another one of these nationwide not-for-profit groups that's launched these, grassroots multi-state campaigns to get people to sign up. Basically, for the record, folks, let's understand something. The best business right now in America is, if you are a liberal, progressive, grassroots organization, how you can obtain money from the government. That is the best industry right now in America. There's no more profitable enterprise than stealing taxpayer money by defrauding the American populace and being paid by taxpayer money. That's the number one industry in America. How to get money out of the federal government. If you are an alternative anything, alternative energy, alternative sexual representation, if you are any kind of a grassroots organization, the money is out there. It is unbelievable how much of it there is. All you got to do is put your name down and boom, you're handed a big fat check. On the conservative side, nothing. It's a dry well. I can't get people to support this program, and I expose this nonsense and deplorable behavior every day. I mean, for $376,000, imagine what I could do in terms of putting on a television program that would expose and do essentially what Project Veritas has done. I don't have the resources for it. But these people are adept at literally dropping a sponge into the federal treasury and pulling it out laden with taxpayer dollars. They call themselves nonpartisan and nonprofit. My foot. That is an absolute unmitigated lie. And while the Tea Party groups were held up from getting tax exempt status for some of them up to 3 years, all these liberal groups were getting approved at the same time. They admit in the video, we're a brand new organization. They don't have a track record. They've got no experience. They've got no credibility. They've got no background that says this is what we've done in the past. This is how we've proven ourselves. Well, no problem. We don't ask for any of that. Here's a check for $500,000. It's not our money anyway. This is ridiculous. In fact, in one point, this one woman says that they are dedicated to turning Texas into a blue state. And she actually has the unmitigated gall to say, and she's, of course, she doesn't know she's being recorded. She says it on tape. And amazingly enough, she says, we can actually shift the balance of elections. Do you remember me using the phrase, you are funding your own demise? Boom. You are funding your own demise. We have fallen into a police state, and this is the soft tyranny that is being imposed on us every day. And mark my words, this is tyranny. This is tyranny when you unleash people with ideological slants who are motivated by money to betray their fellow citizens. That's exactly what this is. It is unbelievable that this is allowed to continue and happen every single day in the United States of America. I got to tell you, Obamacare, today the news came out that it is that the signups on this are so ridiculously low that they are at less than 3% of goal. They're about to spill their numbers. And what they're going to tell you is how many people registered trying to buffalo you with propaganda. And watch how the news media takes these numbers and touts them. I want you to use your critical thinking exercise skills and turn this into an exercise. When you start hearing the news media trumpeting how many people signed up, you listen to the way in which these newscasters couch this as a magnificent and glowing support for the Obamacare project. And I got to tell you, it's anything but. It is anything but. They have hit less than 3% of their target, with the help of all of these not-for-profit traders. They've hit less than 3%. The states who actually have exchanges that are functioning, and remember now, there's 14 states that have implemented their own system. The other 36 are federal government, are all under the healthcare.gov project. And even the states are having disastrous results. Oregon still doesn't have their system up and running. They haven't signed up a single person. Not one. In Delaware, they've got one. But he hasn't actually paid. He's only just signed up and agreed that he would buy a plan. But he hasn't actually laid down the cash to buy it. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to tell you how many people have, for all intents and purposes, dropped a plan into their shopping cart, but they're not going to tell you how many have actually paid for it. So they're going to mislead you, and they're going to give you a number that is going to make it sound like it's significantly higher than it actually is. And so I want you to utilize this upcoming news deluge as an example for you and an exercise for you to flex and work out your critical thinking muscles. Look for the real news in the stories of how many people have actually bought the policy and laid down their money. The truth is that the Avalier, the group who's looking at 11 of the 14 states that are actually doing this independent of healthcare.gov on a federal level, they've all elected to build their own exchanges, right? And some of these states are like Hawaii didn't start their enrollment until middle of October. They've had problems with their website. Vermont's governor has actually come out and asked for them to extend the enrollment time until March of 2014 because he knows he's not even anywhere close to it. They need 7 million people to sign up for this. And all they're getting, by the way, right now the estimates are in the 90% range are Medicaid people. And those are the people who are not paying anything at all or almost nothing for their health care, and they still have to wait for all the rest of the people to come on board who are going to subsidize them. Now, they've had 49,100 enrollments. And out of that includes the Medicaid signups in Hawaii and in Rhode Island. And they're not providing a breakout. They're just saying it's a total number, but they're not telling you how many of them are free and how many of them are going to be paid. But the truth of the matter is that we haven't even begun to see what a disaster this is going to be. And I got to tell you, the Democrats are in full flight over this. All of these Democratic senators who supported this are running from this like rats out of a sinking ship. You know, it's like a guy walking into a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and declaring he's a DHS agent, and suddenly you start seeing people piling out doors and windows. The truth of the matter is, here's a Democratic rep who comes right out and says, the president was grossly misleading to the American public. So I'm asking you, and I'm asking the House, why are we not filing articles of impeachment for gross malfeasance in office? That's what this is. It is malfeasance. The president cannot stand there and lie to the American people in a fraud, and this is fraud, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about it. This is fraud. You're sitting here looking at a scenario in which the president of the United States of America willingly, willfully, knowingly defrauded literally, 80, 50, 100 million Americans into abiding by a program under false pretenses, and you're talking about literally 100 million Americans who voted based upon a total fraud, a lie. They got this plan through because they knew that if they told the American people the truth, that it would never see the light of day. And this president is the chief liar, the liar in chief. Make no mistake about it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an impeachable offense. Where's Congress? Where's the House? Impeachment must begin in the House. The articles of impeachment must be drafted by the House. House of Representatives, where are you? When our nation is descending into fascism and tyranny, where are you? You're all running for cover. And you should all be ashamed of yourselves. You've been listening to America's Voice. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to pick up the fact that 92 million Americans are officially out of the labor force in October alone. A brand new record for unemployment. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is President Obama's real signature achievement. The ultimate insider's destruction of the United States of America. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org, facebook.com/americasvoicenow, youtube.com/americasvoicenow, and you can download podcasts directly from Spreaker, that's like speaker with an R, Spreaker.com/americasvoicenow. We'll be back in just a moment with more information on this new disaster of the real signature achievement of President Obama, the destruction of the labor force in the United States of America.